Let's move on to the next question. It says, which article of Indian Constitution provides for the right to education? So even in the last video, we were discussing about right to education. So see, every year a question is coming from this one. So do not forget to please revise it before your examination. So as I said, right to education, it was basically a part of the DPSP. Getting my point? Key education should be imparted to the children. Okay, so DPSP are not enforceable, right or not? So initially DPSP it was there that education should be given to the children. Okay, but DPSP is nowhere enforceable, right? Article 39 nowhere enforceable. So then it was discussed, no, right to education has to be enforced. That is how right to education was given in the fundamental right. Why? Fundamental rights are enforceable. Okay, so when did this entire revolution come? So basically we have to discuss for that the 86th amendment, and before that we have to talk about the 42nd amendment. So the fundamental duties had come by the 42nd Amendment Act 1976, as you all know. So initially there were only 10 fundamental duty. Then the 11th fundamental duty, that is it is the obligation of the parents or the guardian to educate the child from the age of 6 to 14 years. Okay, and this is also not enforceable. It is a fundamental duty. Okay, so it is said that it is the duty of the parents and the guardians. Okay, so this was added. Apart from that, in the fundamental right, under the article 21, that is right to life and personal liberty, another article was added, that is article 21A, which said it is the duty of the state, mark my words. In the DPSP, it was given that the state shall thrive to give education, okay, understanding, and take care of the children from 0 to 6 years. Okay, so this thing was there in the DPSP earlier. In the fundamental duties, it is given, it is the obligation of the parents and guardian. But we know neither DPSP nor the fundamental duties are enforceable. Now see what is written in the fundamental right. It is written, it is the duty of the state to ensure that the children from the age of 6 to 14 years, okay, which year? 6 to 14 years, they should go to the schools, understanding, they should complete their education from the years of 6 to 14 years. Getting my point? Okay, so this is enforced. Okay, this is enforced. So this is not the duty of the parents, it is the duty of the state to do it. Okay, so it will have various kind of schemes like Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, midday meal scheme, so as to enroll more and more students in the school. Getting my point? So this was by the 86th Amendment 2003, and it came as a new article in the article 21A subsequently. Okay, right to education 2009 was introduced, okay, as a statutory act. So let us move to the next question now. Who can amend the Indian Constitution? So basically, amendment procedure of Indian Constitution is very tough procedure. The amendment of Indian Constitution can only be done by the Parliament. Okay, it can only be done by the Parliament. Just remember this much as of now. Okay, Constitution can be amended by the Parliament by a 2/3 majority vote. Okay, by a special majority, that is 2/3 voting. Okay, 2/3 voting, and this voting should be greater than the 50% of the total membership of the House. Okay, 50% of the total membership of the House. Okay, this should be satisfied. Getting my point? Which we also called as the absolute majority. However, just remember, the only the Parliament can amend the Constitution. Nobody else can amend the Constitution. So here what will be the answer? None of the above will be the answer. Let us move to the next question now. What happens when there is a disagreement between the two chambers of the Indian Parliament regarding the Constitution Amendment Bill? Okay, so we are talking about the Constitution Amendment Bill. One more thing I must say you, Article 368 discusses about the Constitution Amendment Bill. Okay, so what happens? See, in the Constitution Amendment Bill, the resolution, okay, the resolution means a proposal that the Constitution has to be amended. This proposal has to start from either of the house, maybe Lok Sabha, maybe Rajya Sabha. From any of the house, the resolution will be started. Okay, then for a Constitution Amendment Bill, it is mandatory that each house should pass the bill. Getting my point? For example, let us say the Lok Sabha passes the Constitution Amendment Bill, but the Rajya Sabha says no, I won't pass. Okay, or the Rajya Sabha passes the Constitution Amendment Bill, the Lok Sabha does not pass. Okay, in that case, the Constitution Amendment cannot be done. Okay, the bill will be dead. The bill will be dead. Okay, it cannot be done. It is a mandatory condition in the case of Constitution Amendment Bill that Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha enjoy similar power. The Lok Sabha also has to pass it by 2/3 majority. The Rajya Sabha also has to pass it by 2/3 majority. So here Lok Sabha enjoys same power as the Rajya Sabha in the case of a Constitution Amendment Bill. Okay, so that is the first thing we know. Second thing is that if by one house it cannot be passed. Okay, that means what, can the joint session be done? So if the Lok Sabha is passing, let us say Lok Sabha is passing, Rajya Sabha is not passing, or the Rajya Sabha is passing and the Lok Sabha refuses to pass, so can the joint session be done in this case? So please remember, there is no provision of joint session in the case of a constitution amendment bill. Getting my point? Okay, in the case of a constitutional amendment bill, there is no provision of joint session. It should be individually passed by the Lok Sabha as well as the Rajya Sabha by a two-third majority. Otherwise, the bill will be dead. Okay. Another thing is that when suppose Lok Sabha has also passed it and Rajya Sabha has also passed it, and after that it will go to the president. So the president must give his assent to the bill, then only the constitution amendment will come into picture. Okay, you can understand. We have a constitution, we want to change any provisions in it. So that particular thing is called as constitution amendment. Okay. So Lok Sabha has passed it, Rajya Sabha has passed it, the president, then it will go to the president and president has to give his assent. Okay. So can the president, can he exercise pocket veto in the case of a constitution amendment bill? Or can he withhold his assent? Okay, can he say no, I won't give the assent to the constitution bill? So can he exercise any of the veto power? The answer is no. Okay, understanding. Once a constitution amendment bill has been passed from both the houses of the parliament, it has to be signed by the president. The president cannot exercise any kind of veto in this one. Okay, so see, constitution amendment bill, this is very, very important. So I told you the entire provision of that. The first thing, okay, again I'm just revising you. The first thing, Constitution Amendment Bill can be passed only by the Parliament, nobody else. Not the state legislature, not the governor, not the president, not the Supreme Court. Nobody can do it. Not the Prime Minister, nobody can do it. Constitution Amendment Bill can only be done by the Parliament, the first thing. Second thing, Parliament comprises of three things: the Lok Sabha, the Rajya Sabha and the President, right? Now, the Constitution Amendment Bill, okay, the Constitutional Amendment Bill needs to be passed individually by the Lok Sabha as well as the Rajya Sabha by a two-third majority. Okay, individually Lok Sabha को भी pass करना पड़ेगा, Rajya Sabha को भी pass करना पड़ेगा. If there is a deadlock, somebody passes, somebody does not pass. Okay, if there is a disagreement, there is no provision of the joint session, the bill will die. Okay, there is no provision of joint session. Like for example, in money bill, there is no provision of joint session. Similarly, in constitution amendment bill, there is no provision of joint session. The bill will die. Okay, okay. So I said this one. Third thing, when the Lok Sabha, okay, so when the Lok Sabha as well as the Rajya Sabha, if they are passing the bill and then it is going to the president, so can the president exercise his veto? That means withholding the assent or not giving the assent or pocket veto. Can he do it? No, he cannot do it. Okay, so these are very, very important things that you have to remember. Another important thing that you can just remember is Article 368 talks about the Constitution Amendment Bill, right? So here the question was, what happens when there is a disagreement between the two chambers of Indian Parliament regarding the Constitution Amendment Bill? So here the death of the bill will be there. Okay, understanding. If the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, they are disagreeing, what will happen? Death of the bill. Okay, getting my point. So this question can also be framed to you that in the case of a constitution amendment bill, the Lok Sabha enjoys what power with the Rajya Sabha? Does it enjoy greater power than Rajya Sabha, less power than Rajya Sabha, or equal power? So it is equal power. Why? Because even Rajya Sabha, if it refuses, the constitution amendment bill cannot be passed. Okay, I hope the entire concept is clear to you. Okay. Now let's move to the next question. Who has the power to elect the President of India? So this is very, very, very important. In the last paper of 2017, when we were solving, you saw the election regarding the Vice President was asked. And see now, the election of President is asked. Okay, so I will just clear the concept at a single place here. See, when the President election is there, okay, when the President election is there, so here the Electoral College, okay, there is an Electoral College whose task is to elect the president. Okay, so there will be an electoral college appointed for the president's election. Okay, then what will the electoral college basically comprise of? They will comprise of all the elected members. Okay, please mind this word, this is the elected. Okay, elected members of parliament, the state legislative assemblies, and the state legislative assemblies of the states. Okay, and the state legislative assembly of the UT. Getting my point? So entire India, in the entire India, okay, in the entire India if we talk, so all the elected members of the parliament. Why am I giving so stress on elected? So basically, as you know, in the Lok Sabha, there are total of 543 members and all of them are elected. Okay, earlier there used to be 2 Anglo-Indian nominated members also, so this provision is deleted anyway. And in the Rajya Sabha, if we talk, there are 12 nominated members, right or not? 12 nominated members and 233 elected members. Okay, so these nominated members are nominated by the president himself. They do not get a chance in the president election. Getting my point? So only the elected members, that means what, these 233 elected members and these 543 elected members of the Lok Sabha, they participate in the president election. First point. Second point, all the elected members from the state legislative assembly. Why am I again emphasizing on elected? So see, in the state legislative assemblies also, one member could be nominated from the Anglo-Indian community earlier, right? Okay, so this nominated member won't be given chance. Only the elected member will be given chance to vote for the president. Okay, getting my point? Okay, so that is the same in the state legislative assembly. And when we talk about UT, so does any UT have the state legislative assembly? Does any UT have the legislative assembly? Yes, 3 UTs have their legislative assembly, namely Delhi, Puducherry and Jammu and Kashmir, okay, which is not yet set up, but it will be set up, okay, right? So in this 3 legislative assemblies, the elected members of these 3 legislative assemblies will also be a member of the electoral college of president's election. Okay, I hope this much is clear to you, right? Then how is the president election basically done? So it is done through the single transferable vote and proportional representation. Okay, proportional representation and single transferable vote, this is the method used for the president's election. Okay, now let us see the question. Who has the power to elect the president? The elected members of the parliament. So only elected members of the parliament is not there, right? Because we involve from the states and the UTs also. So option A is wrong. Elected members of the legislative assembly, again this is wrong. All members of the parliament and members of the legislative assembly, this is also wrong. See the option B. All elected members of the parliament and the elected members of the legislative assembly, this is the correct answer, right? Now, if we talk about the vice president, I would just like to clear the concept here. When we talk about the vice president election, that is also done through the single transferable vote and the proportional representation. Okay. However, the electoral college of the vice president, okay, the electoral college of the vice president will comprise of all the members of the parliament, okay, all the members of the parliament. That means what? The elected members also, the nominated members also. Getting my point? The elected members and the nominated members also of the parliament will participate in vice president. Okay, so this is about the union. Okay, यूनियन पार्लियामेंट का हमने बता दिया कि पार्लियामेंट में जो लोकसभा है, जो राज्यसभा है, उन दोनों में ही जो नॉमिनेटेड मेंबर्स है और इलेक्टेड मेंबर्स है, वो सारे के सारे पार्टिसिपेट करेंगे वाइस प्रेसिडेंट के इलेक्शन में. फाइन. नेक्स्ट थिंग, जो आपका स्टेट है, ठीक है, स्टेट यूटी, क्या इनको पार्टिसिपेट करने को मिलेगा जैसे कि प्रेसिडेंट के इलेक्शन में मिल रहा था? नो, in the vice presidential election the states and UTs, they are not allowed to participate. Okay, they do not participate, they do not vote in the vice president's election. It is only done at the union level. Okay, because vice president does not have to do any kind of responsibility, or he's not much concerned with the states or UTs, so why to unnecessarily involve them? Okay, it is only a union matter. Okay, so all the members of the parliament will do it, both nominated and elected. But please remember, in the president case, only the elected members will vote, not the nominated members. Okay, right? So next question, let us move to the next question. I'm taking so much time to explain you so that the concept will be clear. Okay, so if you already know the concept, you can move ahead and watch the rest of the video.